What's up, guys? Rob from Jabrans Gaming here, back again with Steve, as usual.
Hi. Yeah, what's up?
And so we did, in the beginning of the year, we did an NHL predictions video, and so we're going to do now our midseason summary. The recording date is January 27th, so all stats are up to January 27th during the All-Star weekend. Everything is current to that point. So if you're watching this 2 months later and you're like, yeah, no, not happening. So we're just going to start talking about different things that are going on in the National Hockey League. And the way this graph is set up, this is the Metropolitan Division, and it's points and then / games played. So you read it by the Capitals have 63 points in 49 games played. So these are the standings here, currently Metropolitan Division. The 2 stars represent the wild card. And this is ridiculous. Literally all 8 teams in the Metropolitan Division have a legitimate chance to make the playoffs this year, which is just crazy.
Well, yeah, look at that. The wild card team is separated last place and the second wild card are separated by 4 points.
Yeah, and the third divisional spot is 5 points up on the Hurricanes, but the Hurricanes have 2 points in hand. So realistically, that gap could be 1 point between the third divisional spot, even the second divisional spot, and the bottom team.
Yeah.
So it's realistically speaking, you're gonna see teams like the Hurricanes are on pace for I think 87 points. The Islanders Rage are on pace for like 95 points. You're realistically gonna see teams that hit 95, 100 points and just not make the playoffs,
Which is kind of ridiculous when you think about it.
And I went back to last year's standings, and the top 3 teams were like well over 100 points. Like I think the top team was like 112 points in the Metro Division. The Capitals are only on pace for I think 105 or something like that. So like you're just seeing this crazy balance of teams in the Metropolitan Division, and it's easily the strongest division in hockey, at least in my opinion at this point.
It's parity. It's all about the parity the league is striven for over the last decade. Like, this is what the NHL wants. Like everybody within striking distance, because realistically, none of these teams are in the basement. None of these teams are the worst in hockey. Even though realistically, some of them are going to be picking in the top 10 because they're not going to make the playoffs. So it's kind of ridiculous when you have playoff caliber teams adding, top 10 draft level talent in the offseason because, you just didn't make the playoffs because your division was too good.
Which I think is very interesting because what I found is the Central Division is kind of the same way, where the Central Division is clearly leagues better than the Pacific Division. It's not even close.
Yeah.
It's a little closer actually between Central and Pacific, but it's not as between Metropolitan and Atlantic. It's not even close.
Oh, it's very stark in contrast.
If we flip over real quick here, you look at the top 3 teams. 61 points and 51 for the Maple Leafs. The next closest team is 15 points back, and your basement teams 44, 40, 39, 37 game in points.
I think the Ottawa Senators are kind of bone. I never thought they were going to be that good this year. I didn't think they were going to be in the basement. I didn't think they were going to be only 2 points up on the Buffalo Sabres. Hello? The Buffalo Sabres are
You had them in 4th in the Atlantic, and you're...
Yeah, I thought they were going to miss the playoffs. I just didn't think they were going to be, one of the worst teams in hockey. Then they made, they were trucking along okay when they had Kyle Turris and stuff, and then all of a sudden they decided to, trade him off because there were some contentious contract talks, which, that's the whole business side of hockey, right? You dump guys off who don't want to sign. But you get Matt Duchene, who wants nothing more than to leave Colorado. He comes here, and then he's a -10 with 2 points in his first 11 games, and he hasn't done anything since they traded for him. And Kyle Turris goes down to Nashville and is lighting the league on fire. Is the best number 2 center in the league. And Colorado's laughing this whole time because they knew what everybody thought, which was that Matt Duchene might not be everything he's always cracked up to be in this trade. He's got all his value, but
Well, they won, 10 straight after they traded him?
Yeah, they went on some sort of crazy tear. Nathan McKinnon steps into the number 1 center role after being relegated to number 2 to Matt Duchene, and he goes on this absolute tear, and, he's a Hart Trophy candidate right now, easy. The Maple Leafs are okay. They're not as good as I thought they would be. They're not playing the same way they were last year. They've reined them in to try to play this defense, this weird hybrid of high flying and then defense, and last year where they were playing this fast and loose and open because they're playing last year realistically they had nothing to lose because they weren't nobody thought they were going to make the playoffs.
There was no expectations.
And Austin Matthews comes in and scores 41 goals or 40 goals, and Nylander and Marner come in and come as advertised, which almost never happens in the draft. You never get guys that come as advertised. There's always some kind of hiccup, but. Last year they were playing fast, open, and loose, and they didn't give a shit. They didn't care at all. They were like, okay, you want to trade goals? Let's trade goals. They were playing like the Oilers in the '80s. Like, okay, you want to match firepower for firepower? We'll do it. And then Babcock this year, which Mike Babcock's a great coach, but he's trying to rein that in and play like more defense. And it's like, I get it, but when you have Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, Morgan Rielly, like these guys that can really push pace, like you really should be trying to outskate teams because like if you can. Like, realistically, the Maple Leafs could push the pace and just outscore teams if they wanted to. Like, it's not even close. Like, most teams in the league can't skate with them, especially not with that top line of Austin Matthews, William Nylander. I think Zach Hyman's still on that wing. Like, that's just one of the best lines in hockey. Like, those guys go for it every single night.
So, here's, I was doing some research last night, and I referred to this in my own head as like the Scooby-Doo mystery of the season here.
Zoinks.
It's like Zoinks gang, what the fuck happened in Montreal? I also realized I have Montreal Red Wings on here. Let me fix that.
Oh no.
They're definitely not the Montreal Red Wings. They're the Montreal Canadiens, and we are still recording, so we're good. But yeah, so I was like, what the fuck is going on with Montreal? What happened? You have an all-star, not an all-star in the sense that he's literally in the all-star game.
Superstar goalie.
Probably top 2 in the league just in terms of raw talent in Carey Price. And, they made all these trades to get bigger. They got Shea Weber. And I was like, what is going on? I was looking. They're top 10 in the league for shots for. They're top 10 in the league in shots against. Their power play is doing okay. Their penalty kill's garbage, but, I was like, what is going on? All signs point to this team should be a good team.
Did you look at any of their advanced metrics?
That's exactly what I went to do. And I looked at their core sci-4, so their possession game, their positive possession game, they're like
yes,
a 52%.
They have the puck, yeah.
Here's the thing. So what does that lead me to believe? If they have the puck, they're generating shots, they're keeping shots down.
They're not getting quality shots.
Exactly. That's the thing, right? And when you look at the games that they're playing, go back and watch that video of them losing 6-5 to Carolina the other night.
Yeah.
All the shots they're giving up are super high quality shots. Mm-hmm. The first 3 goals are from the slot.
Yeah. So
they're keeping the shots down and they're generating the shots again or 4.
But they're giving up grade A opportunities and they're not generating anything from the middle. That was Boston's problem with Claude Julien. That's why like if you watch all of a sudden this renaissance with the Boston Bruins in the last season and a half with Butch Cassidy as head coach. Butch Cassidy made a big emphasis on generating from the middle, which is you want to generate a lot of shots, but when you're generating a lot of shots and not really any quality shot, there's no point to it because now you're shooting from the wall or you're shooting from
oh, well, that was just sorry to cut you off. Just to add on to what you're saying, they're bottom 3 in goals for, so they're getting a lot of shots and not scoring anything.
Right, because they're not generating any quality. It's all coming from the boards and the half wall. It's coming from the point, which is getting knocked down. They're little nothing shots, and if you look at they really need to think about getting rid Claude Julien's only been there a season, but I think his time is up because he has almost no place in this league. He really needs to reform the way he's coaching because he's coaching the big bad Bruins from 2011 who were just barreling through teams and they were shooting a lot, but they were picking up a lot of rebounds. There's a lot more to that game. But now in this NHL, teams are clogging the middle of the ice a lot more. They're a lot especially because the league's gotten faster. So coming to the neutral zone, teams are concentrating on pushing you to the boards and you want to generate from the boards all night long, go ahead, but you're not going to get a guy inside the house the home the slot. So teams are more than willing to give up those shots from the board. So Montreal generating all those shots, they're probably pat on the back, we're shooting a lot, but it's but you're only taking the shots they're giving you. Pacioretty is easily a 30 goal scorer in the NHL, but he's been having a really rough stretch because he's not getting any quality. There's no the system that they're playing isn't generating any quality opportunities, and the scoring is down as a result. And their defense, like you said, the teams aren't generating a lot of shots, but the shots they are generating are coming from
super high quality.
They're coming from right inside the slot, right on top of Carey Price, and Carey Price is good. He's one of the best in the league, but when guys are shooting from 6 feet out, 7 feet out, and they're getting these really high quality chances and they're getting the mismatches down low. Like, there's nothing he can do to stop them. He's looked kind of off all year too, though. There's something about that.
It goes to show at the beginning, one of his advanced stats that I looked at was goals, was save percentage against average. So his save percentage versus the league average, and he has a much worse save percentage on most nights than the league average is. And it's just like, again, that goes to show you they're not giving up a lot of shots, so save percentage is going to stay low because the shots he's seeing are so high quality that when like 5 go in like that the other night, like he's only seeing maybe 25 shots a night, but they're all from like really high scoring areas. And it's like, that's just one thing that's really frustrating to me about the Montreal Canadiens is because, like, I'm not a Habs fan by any stretch of the imagination.
They've been your Stanley Cup pick the last couple of years, though.
They're a team that should be, by all means, competitive. They should be winning these games, and they're not. They have 46 points in 48 games. That's not good enough. And this is the other thing about the Atlantic Division that really kind of pisses me off, too. And this is going to kind of go on a little rant, but, when you look at the Metropolitan Division and you look at, all these teams hyper-competitive from top to bottom, number 1 to 8, and then you look at the Atlantic Division, and it's really only the top 3 teams have any hope of making it into the playoffs. The fourth-ranked team in the Atlantic Division is 10 points out of a wild card spot. Which is just absurd. That's just awful. And it kind of makes you think, when we look at these teams like the Lightning, the Bruins, and the Leafs, you kind of start questioning, like, are these teams as good as they're being made out to be? And I'm not gonna sit here and tell you the Lightning aren't a great team. The Lightning are a fantastic team. One of the best teams in the league this year, top 2 easily right now. I think they're still ahead of the Golden Knights if I'm correct. So I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that the Lightning are bad teams, but I'm also gonna sit here and question, like, just how good are they? Because they've been beating up on these terrible teams. 5 out of the 8 teams in the Atlantic Division are just trash, right? They're just awful.
Realistically, they'll probably be picking within the top 10. 5 of those teams are getting top 10 draft picks.
So when you think about it, like, of course, like when the Leafs and the Bruins and the Lightning play these teams 4 to 6 times a year, as opposed to the Metropolitan, where whenever you play in division, it's a competitive game.
Right.
Like, you can make the argument, like, yeah, the Bruins are getting 16. If the Bruins play every of the bad teams twice a year, the Bruins are getting 10 free points out of that. Are they as good as they seem to be?
I mean, the Bruins specifically, I know, like, they're right now they're the real deal, at least because they're picking up a lot of points out of division anyway.
Right, which is the thing. They've been on a roll of.
They've been the best team in the league since I think since at least December. They're the best team in the league. They match their best point. I think it's a
point streak. It's a 16-game point streak.
Yeah, it's since 1969. The longest point streak the team's ever had was in 1940. So for this team to be matching totals from the big bad Bruins of the late 60s, Bobby Orr and Phil Esposito and Ken Hodge, legends, Hall of Famers. For this team to be doing that, it's very impressive, especially in the league that's way more close. Parity's been paramount to this league, whereas in the late 60s, you had teams that just weren't good. Like you had the Oakland Seals, which were terrible, and teams that just go to Oakland and beat them up every night and pick up 2 points. Whereas now the Bruins are going into even bad teams are competitive. Like the Bruins going into Montreal on rivalry night, what was it, 2 weeks ago or last week, that was still a tough game for them.
3-2?
Yeah, it's still tough nights because these teams are closer and more competitive than they've ever been, and it's really that goes to the ethos, anybody can win on any given night unless you're Buffalo. Buffalo just can't win at all for some reason. They're just having a really hard time. And with all that talent, I don't know what's happening, but
they're another Scooby-Doo mystery.
Detroit, Detroit's got to really commit to this rebuild. They have a whole other wealth of issues that's going on. They're playing a lot of older guys. They're prioritizing ice time for them. I mean, they're still relatively competitive, I guess. They're well out of a playoffs, but they would need some kind of tear to get into the playoffs. Boston's really good. Tampa Bay's been really good, but I think Tampa Bay's really also benefiting right now from a really, really strong start. They came out of the gate on fire. They were leagues better than everybody else at the beginning of the season, especially Nikita Kucherov, who was just he was daring goalies to stop him. He was just scoring every single night, and there was nothing anybody could do to stop him. But now, he's slowed down to a realistic pace. He's still scoring, but it's not this ridiculously high pace.
He's not on pace for a 60-goal season anymore. He's probably going to hit 50.
He was on pace for a 75-goal season or something. Something we haven't seen since the 80s when, guys are regularly scoring 50-plus goals. 50 goal scorers don't happen in the NHL anymore for a reason. The teams are better than they've ever been, and they're more defensively minded than they've ever been. So, they eventually keyed in on the fact that he was having this hot start. He came back to earth and became more league average play. Not league average. He's still a better player than most players in the league, but He's not on this incredibly high pace, but like even then, like Vasilevsky's having like a Hart Trophy level season. Like he's been the best player on the night best player on the ice for that team every single night. And without him, they don't have this start. Like honestly, without him, they're fighting the Maple Leafs and the Bruins. Like they're in a dogfight with the Bruins for points. Like they're only 5 points ahead of them, but like this could be a significantly closer, especially with the way the Bruins came on lately. Like it would be a real dogfight in the middle.
I'm very curious to see in the playoffs what's going to happen if the Atlantic Division crosses over, because like I said, I think they're good teams, but it's
the Metro teams.
It's a question mark.
Yeah.
How good are they? And the other thing with the Bruins, real quick, just before we go on, I don't like teams that are very streaky like them.
Yeah.
Like when the Blue Jackets went on to 20-game winning streak or whatever.
Yeah.
And then they made the playoffs and didn't do shit.
They were 500. The thing with that game, that long winning streak last year, the Columbus Blue Jackets were a 500 team, and like they were having a lot of struggle. They struggled a lot throughout the second half of that year. So like you said, streaky teams, like they get real hot and they get all these points and they pick up bunches and bunches of points, and then like they don't do anything.
I'm not, just a disclaimer. I'm not saying the teams that the top 3 teams in the Atlantic are bad. It's just I'm very, very curious to see what happens when they cross over.
I'm waiting to see when the Bruins actually because they have had a couple injuries. Like now they have the Marchand suspension. That's 5 games. That's going to be tough for them without their leading scorer. And then you have Charlie McAvoy, who had that heart issue, so he's out 2 weeks. So like now that's even adding on to that. So now they're missing 2 of their guys, and Charlie McAvoy is averaging like 22 minutes a night. So he's eating all the minutes alongside Chara. So it's really it's whether or not like do they feel these effects or not, and when?
Right.
You know, is it going to be cumulative all at once? They're gonna feel it, or is it going to be like streaks? Like all of a sudden they start to like slow down and they're not as good.
Moving on to the Western Conference. This is what I was talking about the Central Division is a lot like the Metropolitan in the fact that if you look at the worst team as the Blackhawks, they're really only 4 points out of the wild card spot.
Right.
So this is a very, very competitive division as well. I'm not gonna lie, like I wouldn't have told you that the Winnipeg Jets or the Colorado Avalanche were gonna be as good as they are. But again, my problem with the Avalanche is this very long streak they went on. They picked up the 10 wins. It was like
10-game winning streak.
You picked up 20 points in 10 games. How good are you? And again, they're tied with the Wild for the last wild card spot. And I don't know. My big thing with the Winnipeg Jets is I didn't realize just how good of a season Connor Hellebuyck was having.
Oh yeah, dude's on fire.
The kid's been playing incredible, and I also didn't realize just how bad of a season the Stars were having. And I say bad, like it's bad for Star standards. Like you would think that they'd be in the top 3 in this division, and they still can make it, obviously. But
yeah.
It's just the Central Division is very comparable to the Metropolitan. It's very competitive, and like I wouldn't have told you the Blackhawks are going to be in last place. I wouldn't, I don't think anybody really saw that coming, but it's not a shock, I guess, in a way.
Well, the bubble's got to burst sometime, right?
Right. That's just the thing. Like, how long can you be good for before it catches up to you?
Exactly. I mean, the Blues, So the Blues came out of the gate real hot. They were playing some of the best hockey in the league for most of October and November. The Predators are the Predators. They're going to be good no matter what. They have the best defensive core in the league, and then adding Kyle Turris only made the team better. And guys are playing really well. Victor Arvidsson and stuff's playing well. The Winnipeg Jets, I knew were going to be good. I was just waiting for them to finally put it all together, because when you have Patrick Laine, Mark Scheifele, Blake Wheeler,
Jacob
Trouba, Kyle Connor, and Nikolai Ehlers all in their top 6, and Jacob Trouba being a defenseman, and Connor Hellebuyck being one of the most talented young defensemen in the league. You were just waiting for them to put it all together and be good, and they're big too. So they're big, they can skate. They're kind of like the LA Kings when the LA Kings won their 2 Stanley Cups. The LA Kings were very big, they could skate, they got great goaltending. I'm not saying Connor Hellebuyck's as good as Jonathan Quick, but Connor Hellebuyck's very good. He's at least a top 5 goalie in the league this season, easy. I mean, he might be nominated for the Vezina, because without him, they don't do anything. I mean, they signed Steve Mason in the offseason.
And he didn't do shit.
To be their starter, and Connor Hellebuyck comes in and goes, okay, and outplays him for the starting job. And Connor Hellebuyck, and this is a veteran losing his job to Connor Hellebuyck, who's, 23, maybe?
Yeah, he's young, yeah. I don't think he's older than 26.
He's younger than John Gibson, and John Gibson's only, 25, I believe. So, this is incredible. Pekka Rinne's having a great season. The Blues are doing exactly whatever I thought the Blues were going to do. The Blackhawks, like you said, it makes sense that the bubble finally burst on them, because they weren't going to, looking at that roster, I was
Hellebuyck is 24. I spelled Blackhawks wrong. Nice. We're just full of mistakes today.
Just like looking at the Blackhawks roster itself afterwards, it made sense. Like losing Marian Hossa to that, what was it, a skin issue? Like it was a skin infection or something that was really like it almost put his life in danger.
Crawford's only played 20 games this year.
Crawford's been injured. Brent Seabrook is having one of the worst seasons of his career, and I never thought Brent Seabrook was like top 3 defensemen or top 5 defensemen in the league, but like even for his standards, he's having a really, really bad year. I mean, he was a healthy scratch the other night.
Right.
Duncan Keith, I think he still has yet to score a goal in the year. I mean, he's more of an assist guy. He always has been, but like still. I still don't like the Minnesota Wild. I just don't like the team makeup. I don't like the fact that Zach Parise is injured for half the season every single year, and it's not conducive to success, especially when you're paying like the two of them like $20-something million combined. Right. I mean, Ryan Suter's been good. He came as advertised, eating minutes left and right, 20-25 minutes a night. You know, he's really good for them. Dumbo's been good. Has Koivu even played this year? I don't even know if Mikko Koivu was playing. You know what it is? Mikko Koivu was such a big centerpiece for that team, and then they got Eric Staal, and Eric Staal took over all like the spotlights. Like I couldn't even tell you because I don't see any Minnesota Wild games because they don't get national airtime that much, and we live in New York, so like they're obviously out of market.
Right. So
I don't see them ever like at all. So I don't even know. And Devin Dubnyk's good, but like he's had a lot of up and down. Yeah, well,
I'll go on record and say that every time you ask me about Devin Dubnyk because the guy's overrated.
I mean, he's good. He's having rough nights and
by overrated I don't mean he's bad. Overrated I mean that people think he's better than he is. I would say he's a league average goaltender who got stardom because of that one season. The one season he came in and led them to the playoffs, and everyone thinks he's like God's gift to mankind.
Yeah. The Avalanche, like you said, they're real.
They traded Duchesne. Well, you know, it really could have just been like
the culture in the room
time
is
to
totally
get rid
different.
of Duchesne. You know,
I think the culture in that locker room, like Nathan McKinnon said the other day, like he was interviewed, and he said like trading Matt Duchesne was good for the team because now everybody that's in that locker room wants to be here, so they're all willing to work towards the success of the team, as opposed to Duchesne, who was by all means a professional. Like he came to the rink, he tried hard, he did his best. But like he didn't want to be there anymore, and whether or not you actively think about it, it puts a drain on you because you're like, well, he doesn't even want to be here. Like, who cares? You know, like why should we care? He doesn't care, and like, so that's a big thing. Is like everybody that's there wants to be there now, and they had some pieces like on the back end. Samuel Girard they got from Nashville is a nice like slick puck moving defenseman, in the vein of, I guess, kind of like Torrey Krug almost. He's not as undersized as Torrey Krug is, I don't think, but he's a puck mover in the similar way. Like he's got a lot of offensive upside. And then the Dallas Stars, like they were like, we got Ben Bishop, it's gonna be great. And Ben Bishop's been having a real average season. He hasn't really done much for them. I mean,
I think that's their biggest problem.
You see some of the goals that are going, like goaltending was their issue last year, and goaltending is still their issue this year because Ben Bishop just hasn't come as advertised. And I never thought Ben Bishop was really all that great. I always thought he was, you know, an above-average goalie in the NHL. But, you know, when you're playing behind the Tampa Bay Lightning and during their best years, when the Tampa Bay Lightning were competing for Stanley Cups regularly, or at least contending for that, like, the conference final and stuff, it's not a good track record for me to look at and be like, oh, well, he's good, because it's like Corey Crawford. Corey Crawford's a good goaltender, but I don't know how actually good he actually is because he's never played behind a bad Blackhawks team. He's been behind one of the best teams in the league for a decade. That's not to say he's bad. I never thought Corey Crawford was bad. I just don't know how good he is. He's not like Henrik Lundqvist, who took a mediocre Ranger team in the mid-2000s and carried them to contention like he's been doing. He's doing it this year. Like Henrik Lundqvist took them and is now the only reason the Rangers are even sniffing a playoff spot. So I don't like a lot of goaltending question marks in the league is this year. And on top of Colorado, they don't have Semyon Varlamov. He's still injured.
Yeah.
So Jonathan Bernier is saving the Colorado Avalanche's season, which is something every Toronto Maple Leaf fan is crying over because they're like, where was this guy when we had him?
Yeah, not there. He was. I think the biggest thing
was a sieve.
Yeah,
absolute sieve in Toronto.
Pacific Division, again, like I said, it's not as bad as the Atlantic, but look, once you get past the Edmonton Oilers or the Anaheim Ducks, it falls off significantly to 47 points, which is 10 points out of a playoff spot. And the bottom two make sense. What is going on in Edmonton?
They're just not getting the goaltending. Cam Talbot himself, he's saying like, he's letting in a lot of goals that he shouldn't be letting in. Like, so I didn't see the stat, but I imagine if you look at his save percentage against league average, it's below average on most nights. And that's not to say Cam Talbot's a bad goaltender. He's just having a bad year, as is the rest of the Edmonton Oilers. Like, they traded John. Like, I remember the headline early in the season, like, we could use scoring on the wing, and then it's just like, oh well, I mean, you traded Jordan Eberle and
Taylor
Hall. The Taylor Hall trade works out no matter how you look at it, because they got Adam Larson, and Adam Larson's been a top 2 guy for them, so that's fine. But the Jordan Eberle trade came almost seemingly out of nowhere to address a need they didn't have.
Yeah.
You put Ryan Strowman. Ryan Strowman has been struggling in New York, and you send him to Edmonton, and he continues to struggle.
Well, I will say one thing about Ryan Strowman is we were very smart to move him when we did, because he was a whole different player once we fired Capuano and once we bought in Doug Weight. He was a league's better player than he was. So it was very smart for us to trade him when he did, because his trade value was at as high as it was ever going to be.
Yeah. It just didn't make sense for Edmonton to be the team that bit.
Well, if you look at the standings, right? The Ducks are the quote unquote worst team contending for a playoff spot, and they're 2 points out of the second spot in the division.
And that's after having pretty much the whole team on the IR for most of the year.
And you look at a team like that, exactly, and then you look at a team like the Edmonton Oilers, who have been fairly healthy this year. They, McDavid hasn't really missed any time.
Draisaitl.
Larson hasn't missed a lot of time. Has he missed any time? I'm not sure.
I don't think any of them have missed any time.
Draisaitl hasn't missed any time. And then you look at this team where everyone's like, the Edmonton Oilers have finally arrived. After years and years and years of mediocrity, we have a goaltender, we have a star center, we have scoring on a wing, we have defensemen, and then they're 3 points ahead of the Vancouver Canucks, who are just garbage. Outside of Brock Besser, the team has nothing going for it right now.
They're in the middle of tearing it all down, yeah.
So, I mean, again, the Oilers are another Scooby-Doo mystery, like, what happened? And you can't really blame it on a competitive division, because, yeah, the Golden Knights are way better than everyone thought they were going to be. You can say that. But at the same time, you have 5 teams, or really 4 teams in this division that are within 2 points of each other. So it's a competitive division, but it's not as competitive as the Metropolitan, where the Edmonton Oilers should be picking up points against the Canucks. They should be picking up points against the Coyotes. And realistically, they should be picking up points against numbers 2 through 5. And they're just not doing it. So I really don't know what to do if I'm a GM in Edmonton right now. Do you make a trade for a goaltender right now? Probably not, because you've got 32 games, 33 games left. You're probably not making the playoffs at this point. You're 10 points out of a playoff spot. Do you make a trade? I don't think so. I think you kind of you go into the offseason with the idea, okay, we might have a need we can address in the offseason, but we're probably not going to trade at some point this year.
Depth scoring has been a big issue for them, and I think if they give Jesse Puljujarvi a real shot and Kailer Yamamoto real shots, and they manage to step in and fill these roles, I think you'll see the Oilers be much better next year. And as long as Cam Talbot has a bounce back season, because Cam Talbot was like the backbone, without him that team didn't go anywhere last year. So if he has a bounce back season next year, or even a bounce back second half, and the Oilers somehow manage to turn around, I don't think they'll make the playoffs, but at least they'll make it interesting. It'll be a dogfight in the bottom of the division. The Coyotes are really bad. They're like dumpster fire bad. Like, it's a train wreck. Like, you don't even want to, like...
Ekman Larson, is he staying or is he gone?
He's gone. Ekman, they're smart to trade Ekman Larson. Like, he wants out. He's made it very almost... Without saying it, it's become very clear he wants out. His plus minus is the league worst.
Yeah.
And that's not like any damnation on him, but like when you're the best defenseman on the worst team in the NHL,
you're playing 20 minutes a night.
Yeah, you're going to see the top team's opposition, and Ekman Larson is not by any means a defensive dynamo. Like, you don't expect him to. He was a 20-something goal scorer. He's a 20 goal scorer 2 seasons ago or last season. No, not last season. 2 seasons ago. So like, this is a guy you expect to come in. He's like Erik Karlsson. You expect him to step in, put up a ton of points, and match him with a team that can defend. When Arizona's going to do a lot of growing pains, Rick Tocchet's first season behind the bench. He's trying to get them to play the right way.
Ranta has had some struggles with the team.
But the team isn't playing defense in front of him either, so it's like he never got a chance to find his footing. He's not like playing behind the Rangers, who by or no means are great defenders, but they're better than the Arizona Coyotes. Vancouver's in the middle of tearing everything down, so you can't really make any comments on them. I don't know what direction they're going in yet.
Golden Knights real deal or no?
I think for at least this season they're the real deal.
I mean, playoffs real deal?
I don't know. It depends. So they're number one. They'd be picking up. They're number. Are they number one in the conference? Yeah, right. Because they're number two in the league.
Yeah,
So
they're only behind the
they're
Tampa
only
Bay
behind
Lightning.
So they'd be picking up what, the second wild card team, which is the Colorado Avalanche right now.
It could be either of the Avalanche,
Yeah, so
Wild,
there's a team.
Blackhawks.
There's a team crossing over from the Central into the Pacific. I don't know. It depends. It depends on if they continue to play as well as they are. And that's, wow, it's a real hot take. But, I mean, if Marc-Andre Fleury continues to play like Marc-Andre Fleury can, and guys like Wild Bill Karlsson or William Karlsson continue to score the way they're scoring, I think they'll be a real tough team. I don't know about next season, though. Come next season, I think teams are going to be ready for them, and I think those guys aren't going to be playing out of their head anymore. They're going to be playing above way above they're way above their head, because that's really what it is. There was no expectations for this team, and I think this team's playing with a really big chip on its shoulder, which is oh yeah, we're not going to do anything, and they came in and they're beating a lot of teams, and not to make it an excuse, but there's the Vegas factor of it. You go into Las Vegas for the first time on the road trip, and teams are expecting to push these guys over. And you have John Tortorella saying to go out, have a good time, play guilty, and then the Blue Jackets going and get beat up, and teams so there's some kind of factor to it. You come in on a long road trip, it's Las Vegas, you're on the Strip, It's not to take anything away from the talent of the team, but there is something to be said for teams coming in and not staying out to 2 a.m., but you go out to dinner, you get a show, you catch a show, you're out a little later than you want it to be. Your mind isn't exactly focused on the game. You're not preparing as well. So there's something to be said for that. I think that's all hearsay, and that's what a lot of analysts have been talking about. Is maybe that's a thing. I mean, I'm sure it is, because NHL players are all human,
right?
So it probably is. It's not like when you go into San Jose where you're all right, well,
yeah,
what am I gonna do here? You go and you're oh, well, you want to go to the casino and have a good time, maybe catch a show, or
I have two takes on the Golden Knights. One, I think the reason that they've been so successful is they're playing a very, very basic form of hockey.
Oh, yeah.
They recognize the fact we're not going to out-talent anybody in the league. Maybe except for Arizona Coyotes, but we're not going to talk about them. They're not going to out-talent a majority of the teams in this league.
Right.
So when you watch them play, it's very simple. Puck to the point, it's on net, and you crash the net. They got guys like Alex Tuck who aren't afraid to go to the net. William Karlsson's not afraid to go to the net. You've got defensemen who just... when you think about it, they really don't have any defensemen that's offensive, dynamos.
Right.
It's very simple. Feed the puck to the front, get people there, and unlike the Canadiens, who are just generating nothing shots, the Golden Knights are generating quality shots from the front of the net because they have the guys that can do it. It's very simple, and on defensive plan, it's very simple. It's just you man up, you take your coverage. And the other thing about the Golden Knights is they're fast. They have a lot of skaters who are very fast. William Karlsson's a fast skater. James Neal, when he wants to, he can put on the Jets, and they're playing a very, very simple brand of hockey. And I think a lot of the times when you're out talented, that's how you have to play, and that's how you win games. Other thing, though, I don't see them continuing to success into the playoffs because they don't have that X factor. Teams that win in the playoffs have a game breaker most of the time, a guy that can just take over a game. You look at the Pittsburgh Penguins for the last 2 years, they have a guy like Crosby, and when he needs to, he puts up 4 assists in a game. He's feeding guys pucks. Gensel was putting up a hat trick. He was their game breaker last year. I don't see a game breaker on the Golden Knights, and that's not the biggest issue. You can win with a very balanced team.
If you want to win by committee, which is fine.
But I just see when the going gets tough in the playoffs, you see superstars come out. Like John Tavares 2 years ago in the playoffs against the Florida Panthers, scored 2 goals in Game 6 to win them that series. I don't know if the Golden Knights have a guy that can do that. James Neal, maybe. Carlson's been playing extremely well, but is he a game breaker yet? I don't know. That's the biggest thing I see with the Golden Knights right now, is that they're having a lot of success because they're playing very simple hockey, but at the same time they don't really have that X factor. I do think Gerard Gallant is a fantastic coach for this team, and we can get into awards later, but you have any final comments on?
Not really. I thought the San Jose Sharks were going to be worse. I mean, Joe Thornton went down to a knee injury, so he's out. He's out for
the year almost.
Something like that, 8 weeks or something crazy. So he's gone. The Calgary Flames, I thought were going to be better. I thought they were going to manage to put it together, especially when their top 3 defensemen are Dougie Hamilton, Giordano, and Travis Hamonic. But whatever.
Mike Smith's been having a really good year for them, actually, surprisingly.
Yeah, well, when you actually have a team in front of you, it's amazing what you can do.
Yeah. So we're just gonna talk to the league leaders in points, goals, assists, points, and then the rookie points leader. Obviously, when you look at the goals, you look at William Karlsson with 27 goals already, and I don't care who you are. If you tell me you pick William Karlsson to be top 5 in the league in goals, you're a fucking liar.
Yeah, nobody thought that was gonna happen.
Not even close to happening. I think one really interesting thing when you look at assists is you look at John Klingberg with 42 assists. Like, I didn't put his assist total. He has 54, I think.
McDavid?
Yeah.
Okay.
But he's top 10 in points.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, John Klingberg, like, 42 assists.
He's got 50 points already, almost.
What in the world? And then you look at the points, it's pretty much what you'd expect. But one thing that's really interesting is McKinnon is second in points, but he's not top 5 in either category.
No.
So he's having a very balanced season. I'm very happy, personally, as an Islanders fan, with Lee and Tavares putting up 27 and 26. Bailey has 42 assists. I think it's really interesting when you look at the points leader, though. Like, Barzal and Besser, these guys have been just a treat to watch on the ice. You know, Barzal's a very electric skater. He's got great hands. He can score goals when he needs to. But Besser's shot is just, like,
one of the best in the league.
Unbelievable. And I was reading an article, they were talking about each other the other day, and Barzal said I think the biggest thing with Brock is that he has a very high positional IQ, and he gets himself into very good spots to use that shot.
Yeah.
So, this is, and I mean, Danton Heinen, like, on the Boston Bruins, putting up 33 points.
I didn't even know who that was, I'm going to be honest with you.
So,
Clayton Keller had a real hot start. He was playing really well, and then
he's kind of tapered off.
He cooled off, but I mean, as you expect, he's a rookie. Rookies like ebb and flow in their seasons. Brock Besser's the real deal. I mean, he's scoring. He's got one of the best shots in the league. Like, that thing's a rocket. Matt Barzal is one of the most. He's probably the closest to Connor McDavid in terms of skating in the league. Like, he's one of the most electric skaters in the NHL. And not even just in straight line speed. Like, he's just, his edge work is better than everybody else. He crosses over. He cuts out. He's better. He's got great hands. He's got really high hockey IQ. So he knows where to put the puck, and he knows where to go to get the puck. I mean, he's never waiting for the puck. He's always getting the puck, or he's in a position to he puts himself in a position to receive the puck, you know? The assist leader, I mean, Voracek's been real up there for most of the last couple of years in terms of assist leaders, so he's, you know, really good addition to the puck.
With number 1 and 2, Voracek and Giroux.
Yeah.
You know, the Philadelphia Flyers are just putting up the points, which is surprising to me. One thing I do want to comment about Besser, though, is everyone makes out this big rivalry between Barzal and Besser, and I give Besser a lot of credit because I've been watching Matt Barzal. He's been playing with quality line mates this whole year. He's been playing with Eberle pretty much almost the whole year.
Mm-hmm.
They've combined, like, when they're on the ice for like 26 goals or something like that. Like, there have been 26 goals scored when both of them had a hand in it. So, like, they've been playing really, really well together. He was playing with Beauvillier recently, who's been on fire since he came back from the AHL. But I give Besser a lot of credit for what he's doing because he's really, like, he's playing on Vancouver. And
he is kind of like the
is
threat.
Vancouver at this point,
yeah,
to an extent. So everyone makes out this big rivalry between Barzal and Besser, but you know they're just super fun players to watch. Yeah, I don't know. There's not really a whole lot of surprises on this list. I'd say outside of William Karlsson being top 4 in goals or top 5 in goals, it's pretty much stuff you'd expect to see.
I mean,
except for Couturier. Couturier has also been lighting the league on fire, 26 goals.
Yeah, he's having a breakout year. I mean, everybody knew he was good, but everyone knew he was good for his defense. Nobody was expecting him to score 26 goals at the halfway mark. Ovechkin's on pace for at least a 50-goal season. Like, he could hit 60 if he really caught fire, which would be really interesting because we haven't had a 60-goal score in the NHL since Steven Stamkos in 2012. So that'd be interesting. I don't think anyone's gonna break. I don't know. Actually, Kucherov might break 100 points if he picks up the pace, and McKinnon could break 100 points. We could have a couple 100-point guys in the league. Tavares could realistically hit 100 points at the halfway mark. I mean, they would take a lot. They would have to really keep up the pace, but realistically, they could hit 100 points, and that'd be interesting because there's not really a lot of seasons where you have more than one 100-point scorer in the NHL anymore.
Yeah. This is a really interesting thing to look at here. Is
that Andrei Vasilevsky's number 1 in almost every category.
Yeah, and this is exactly what I was talking about. Connor Hellebuyck. He's 4th in save percentage, 3rd in goals against, 2nd in wins, and 5th in shutouts.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Ironically, number 6 in shutouts is also Robin Lehner. So God bless him for dealing with what he's doing. But I think one thing that you can really take away from this graph, or not graph, but this chart, is if you look at John Gibson, he's 8th in save percentage, but he's not top 10 in goals, goals against. He's not top 10 in wins, and he's not top 10 in shutouts. So one thing I thought was really interesting with Anaheim being like on a bubble kind of team is clearly they're getting John Gibson's best. You know, he's 8th in the league in save percentage. He's making the saves. He's just probably seeing a ton of shots a night. So that's just one thing I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
I think another thing that's interesting is the top 10 in goals against. This is, by the way, this is with goalies that have played at least 35 games. I excluded
The backups.
because that skews a lot of stats. But, you know, Lundqvist has been trying his ass off all year.
God, you could say that again.
And it really is amazing to me just how hard this guy can carry a team when he really wants to.
Mm-hmm.
It's unbelievable just what the guy can do on any given night. And, you know, I take nothing away from him. He's one of the best goalies in the league. Other than that, there's not a whole lot of surprises on this list. I mean, I'd say Mike Smith is somewhat surprising, being 5th in goals against average, 2nd in save percentage. A little bit surprising, but he's playing on a pretty good team.
I mean, Braden Holtby's isn't having that strong of a year. He's got a sub. Well, I mean, 9-1 save percentage isn't terrible, but you'd expect him to be up with the lead.
You expect him to be top
leaders.
5 with the team that he's on.
Yeah, I mean, the Capitals have had some struggles this year, but I mean, Bobrovsky was the best goalie in the early going there. Like, he was one of the best in the league. I mean, he was making like baby toe saves on 2-on-0s and overtime, and you know, and he's really cooled off recently, which is normal. You're not going to be on fire like that all year long unless it's 2012 and you're Henrik Lundqvist. Then
Right.
you're going to finish the season with a sub 2 goals against average, which doesn't happen. I mean, if anybody argues that Andrei Vasilevsky shouldn't win the Vezina, they just need to look at this list. Number 2 in goals against, number 1 in save percentage, number 1 in wins, number 1 in shutouts. Like, this guy's having a Hart caliber season. These are all the stats that what's his name, Carey Price led in when he won the Hart Trophy a couple of years ago. He was number 1 in goals against, number 1 in save percentage, number 1 in shutouts, number 1 in wins. Like, he was like, without Vasilevsky, I don't think they're as good as they are. And that was especially true with that Montreal team with Carey Price. Without Carey Price in that mix, they were terrible.
Yeah.
Carey Price literally carried them. Like, he was like, "Hop on, boys, we're going to the playoffs." Because, you know, so, Carey Price, that's another surprise. Carey Price is in any of these categories. Carey Price is not anywhere on this list.
Which, again, with a guy that's probably, like I said, top 2 just in terms of raw talent,
It's
you'd expect
surprising
him to be somewhere on this list.
I mean, you expect it, like, it's not to say for lack of trying. He's trying his hardest every night to carry that team to something, but it's just not happening.
Yeah, it's just...
They're just not good. They're just very not good.
Not good. So, kind of just to wrap up the whole thing, surprises, disappointments, predictions, awards. Surprises for me, surprised at the Golden Knights. They're doing a lot better than I thought they would. Surprised at the San Jose Sharks. They're doing better than I thought they would. Surprised at how good Mike Smith is doing. He's doing a lot better than I thought he would be doing. Disappointments, Montreal Canadiens, Buffalo Sabres, 2 teams that I thought would be competitive, and given the raw talent that the Buffalo Sabres have, and given the experience and the talent that the Montreal Canadiens have, should be better than they are, in my opinion. Predictions, I don't see the league shaking up that much. I think it's pretty much going to stay where it is. The bad teams are going to stay bad. I mean, the Metropolitan's a crapshoot. Who knows what the fuck is going on in the Metropolitan anymore? The Central Division is another crapshoot. Who knows what that's going on anymore? I think Ekman Larsson's going to get traded. I don't think Carlson's going to get traded. I think the talk about him is a lot of fluff. I think it's a lot of nonsense.
If he's going to get traded, it'll be at the draft or something where they can get more value out of him.
I don't think he's going anywhere this season.
No.
People were talking about the Rangers blowing up because when Shattenkirk went down, they were like, pack it in.
And Kreider, yeah. It's pretty much they're going to tear it all down, which is fun.
But we'll do awards last. So what about your 3 surprises, disappointments, predictions?
I mean, obviously the Golden Knights, everyone's big surprise because everyone thought they were going to be a basement team, and I don't know if I have any really other surprises. I mean, Tampa Bay being real as good as they are, I was kind of surprised, especially after the season they had last year where they weren't particularly great, but then again, they didn't have a healthy Steven Stamkos. They haven't had a healthy Steven Stamkos in 2 years. It's the first year. they've gotten a healthy Steven Stamkos through the first half. I mean, so that's good. Disappointments. Personally, the Rangers have been a big disappointment. They're close to the playoffs, but they're really not. They're not contenders, and the reality is the Rangers really have no sniff at the Stanley Cup, and if Henrik Lundqvist doesn't, really put him on his back and carry, and it's not going to happen every night. Just like what was in Anaheim, the first 3 goals were on 3 shots or 6 shots or something. So he had an off night, and the Rangers lost, and they lost big because of it. So it's like. So there's that. I don't know about the predictions, the Rangers probably are going to tear it down. At least, hopefully, that'd be the smart thing to do, tear it down and try again for next season, especially just because you can get a lot of value for some of these UFAs, these pending UFAs, like Michael Grabner and Rick Nash and stuff. I mean, even Ryan McDonough, realistically, you could trade away, and that'd be a big piece to kickstart a rebuild on, so that'd be nice. Other predictions... I think Ekman Larsson's gone. I mean, if not now, and then at the draft, he'll be gone because, like you said, Erik Karlsson, he's staying. He's not gone. He's not going anywhere until either the draft or it becomes really contentious. Like what happened with Turris, it became real contentious, and they traded him. So other predictions. I don't think I have anything crazy. I mean,
mid-season Stanley Cup matchup.
I could see. Let's see. I could see the Winnipeg going all the way, or Nashville. I mean,
right now I'm calling. I'd say Tampa Bay is gonna play the. I'd say Tampa Bay's probably gonna end up playing the Nashville Predators, and I think Tampa Bay's gonna win the Stanley Cup. If this is contingent on Vasilevsky staying healthy, if he goes down, the team's fucked.
I'm going to go big and bold here. I'm going to say the Toronto Maple Leafs come out of the Eastern Conference. They're going to play fast, loose through the entire Eastern Conference, get there, and they're going to play the Winnipeg Jets for the Stanley Cup.
See, it's funny because we both were talking about how good the Metropolitan is, but we don't think teams
it's just too. It's going to be too.
I just
tough.
think it's too competitive.
Teams are going to come out. Teams are going to come out of those playoff series way too banged up to do anything against a team that's going to come
tired.
That's going to come out of an Atlantic division that's relatively easy. I mean, the Bruins are going to be one of the tougher teams that they're going to face. I mean. The Maple Leafs Bruins matchup in the first round is going to be tough, but then, I mean, even the Lightning are going to have a tough matchup because they're going to draw a team out of the Metropolitan.
They could play, realistically speaking, they could play anybody: Columbus, Pittsburgh,
the Rangers,
Devils, Flyers, Islanders, Rangers, Hurricanes.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be a big hindrance to them because that's going to be tough. So they're going to come out of that series not as healthy as they would want. And I think the Maple Leafs Bruins isn't going to be tough on them because it's not the big bad Bruins. And they
can outskate them
Yeah.
easily.
So the Maple Leafs are going to end up playing the Bruins in the first round. At least this is going to stay the way it is. And especially since the Bruins are trying to skate more, so it's not like they're trying to hit. It's not as big as a physical game as it was. The first round of the Metro is going to be a mess. I mean, you have Columbus, Pittsburgh, which is always a mess. Those teams try to kill each other every time. And then Washington in first place is going to play, anybody from the Devils to Carolina, and who knows.
I think the biggest thing with fatigue in the playoffs is going to come from because when you look at the Metropolitan Division, every team in this division can skate, and they can skate real well. They've all got guys that can go north-south in the blink of an eye,
Yeah.
Devils, Taylor Hall, Columbus, you got guys like Zach Werenski, he can skate his ass off.
You got
Cam Atkinson. Islanders, you got Matt Barzal, and even Beauvillier can skate well. Capitals, obviously, Nick Backstrom is one of the smoother skaters in the league. The Rangers, you got Michael Grabner. I say JT Miller's a pretty good skater.
Yeah.
He's a pretty good 200-foot guy. The Penguins, obviously, Crosby can skate. The Hurricanes, who do you want? Lindholm, Aho, Jeff Skinner, take your pick. And then the Flyers, Voracek can skate well. Giroux is a good 200-foot player. These guys, these teams can skate. And I'm not saying the Atlantic can't, but any of these teams in the Metropolitan can outskate the Bruins. Yeah. And any of these teams in the Metropolitan can probably skate with the Lightning. I think the only team that might be able to outskate the Metropolitan is the Maple Leafs, just because their top six is so fast.
Yeah.
It's absurd how fast these guys get up and down the ice, but that's the biggest thing. If the Lightning play a team from the Metropolitan, the teams are going to be able to skate. And I think that's going to be kind of a big issue with them going forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, so skating. I really think that any team can skate with the Lightning. I think that's going to be a big fatigue thing going forward for them.
Yeah.
So, awards. Hart Memorial.
Andrei Vasilevsky.
I'm going to agree with you on that one. Vezina.
Vasilevsky. If you win the Hart Trophy, you're probably winning the Vezina too. Like
James Norris. My personal pick is either. I'd probably give it a Hedman just because like he's really developed his 200-foot game, and once he's rounded out his 200-foot game, I think he's probably one of the better defensemen in the league.
Yeah. I mean, John Klingberg could get it, but that's just based on his point totals. Like, that's like the Erik Karlsson effect. You outscored everybody to the title. I mean, even Drew Doughty realistically could get it because Drew Doughty's having a good year too. That one I'm not really sure on because, I mean, the Calder Memorial is going to Matt Barzal. Like, there's not arguing about that. He's got 51 points at the halfway mark. He's gonna have a 70-point season.
Yeah. I will skip Lady Bing. It's kind of boring. Selke.
Patrice Bergeron. Bergeron's having a real bounce back year. He's having a real good year. So Patrice Bergeron's going to win it. No surprise there.
And Jack Adams.
Gerard Gallant. Easy. Gerard Gallant's coached them to contention almost overnight. So
I think that's pretty much all the major awards that we really want to talk about. Any last minute things? Any last things you want to say?
No. I'm glad David Backes is okay after having his bowels resectioned. So I'm not going to call him the biggest loser in the world because, you know, that's not nice. And I'm glad to see he's healthy and playing. But I'm still not his biggest fan. I still don't like the signing. So there's that.
I think I'm looking forward to a competitive second half of hockey. I wish the Metropolitan wasn't as good as it is because it's frustrating to see teams, every time the Islanders play in the Metropolitan, it's a crapshoot. I think the Islanders need to trade for defensemen real bad. Garth Snow, get on either Luke Schenn or Jason Demers. Please, I'm begging you, stop playing Thomas Hickey at forward. He's not, and it doesn't work.
You know what's a real interesting theory? The Rangers and the Islanders could be really strange bedfellows because, like, the Islanders need a defenseman, right?
Real
we
bad.
have Ryan McDonough. And the Rangers
would love Ryan McDonough.
Then the Rangers need young forwards and young talents to really replenish the system. So realistically, you could be like, hey, we'll give you Ryan McDonough and, you know, X, like Michael Grabner, right? And then we could be like, and we'll take like Beauvillier and like somebody in your farm team.
I'll tell you right now,
like
I'm willing to give up any of Ho-Sang. I'm willing to give up Ho-Sang. I'm not willing to give up Bo right now because he's playing really, really well with Barzal.
I'm just being in general.
Yeah, I'm willing to give up Ho-Sang. I'm willing to give up Dow Cole.
Right.
At this point, Barzal has been what Dow Cole was supposed to be. So I'm willing to give up Ho-Sang. I'm willing to give up Dow Cole. I'm willing to give. At this point, I'm willing to give our first round pick because we don't need any more draft picks. You know, if we make this trade, you know, I'd be willing to give like Josh Ho-Sang at a first for McDonough and like a third or something. Because McDonough's a top 2 defenseman, and that's so rare to come by in this league.
It's funny because the Rangers and the Islanders have never exchanged major league players before, so like this would be the first time. And it's just so funny because it gets into like that ingrained like hatred of the Rangers and the Islanders, and like we can't because they're our rivals. But realistically, that might be one of your best trading partners because they have an abundance of young forwards that the Islanders have been drafting over, you know, since 2009. And the Rangers have Ryan McDonough who could kickstart a rebuild for the Rangers and bring in the young skating talent that they've needed for years. So it's just interesting.
But
it's not going to happen. But.
So Demers or Schenn, please. Or somebody that's not Erik Karlsson or Ekman Larsson. I don't want either one of those guys. Please. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you guys for watching. We'll probably do another one of these. Probably
to wrap up the season, probably.
Either at the beginning of the playoffs as a really short one just for predictions, like a bracket.
Yeah. Or
at the end of the playoffs, whatever we end up feeling like doing. But either way, thank you guys for watching, and we will see you guys next time.
Bye.